Well, I kind of like that piano-organ duo tonight, huh? Isn't that a little different? Thank you very much, Kathy and Ed. Appreciate that. Kind of livening up the Saturday night worship service. I might start waving my hands. Oh, I can't do that. Sorry. Not in Lutheran church. I get too excited on a Saturday night worship service. Well, I don't know if any of the readings are really that exciting today, depending on where we're at in life and our relationship with God, how we're feeling about that, or how we're just feeling about life in general. But we use the lectionary readings, which pretty much mean we don't get to pick and choose, what we're going to be reading for a given Sunday. It's the, 20th weekend after Pentecost, so we're getting to the end of Pentecost season. And sometimes we deviate from the readings from the lectionary, but tonight I'm going to go with Matthew chapter 22. It's Jesus who's the Pharisees are wanting to trap him, and so are the Herodians, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But Jesus, he's obviously God in the flesh, right? So he knows their tricks, just like he knows our tricks, right? We don't have tricks, do we? We don't manipulate, do we? No. Think terrible thoughts, evil intents like the Pharisees? Of course not. But Jesus knows what we're up to, just like he knew what they were up to as well. Have you ever heard of a person who makes such a point of saying thank you that every time they write a check to someone, they write on the bottom, "Thank you very much"? Well, I know somebody person who did that. He said it was his way of letting other people know how grateful he was based on whatever he received from them. When he pays the monthly utility bill, you know what he does? What does he do? He pauses for a moment before doing so to reflect on the many benefits he has enjoyed from the electric power that he has received. The convenience of electric lights, the power that runs the furnace, the electric coffee maker, microwave, TV, and vacuum cleaner. Maybe he's not thankful for that last one. Then he makes out the check for the proper amount, and in the space in the bottom left-hand check for indicating its purpose, he writes, "Thank you very much for the electricity." When he pays the cable internet bill, he notes on the check, "Thank you for the services." When he settles up with his car insurance company, he does so similarly, and likewise, all the rest. Then comes each year, April 15th. Time to pay taxes. One would think that the obligation to pay taxes might lead in quite a different direction, but not for this guy. Here too, once he has calculated how much he owes on a quarterly basis, he pauses to reflect on the benefits he has received by living in this country, the freedoms not enjoyed in some other lands, the relative personal security he enjoys here, the social benefits, and then he picks up his pen, he fills in the amount, makes it out to the IRS, and then adds a note. "Thank you very much." I suspect that the people at the IRS who open these checks probably don't see many like that one. Imagine if it is possible to pay one's taxes not grudgingly, but with an attitude of thankfulness and gratefulness. Can't say that I'm there yet. But I guess it is for some people, some of the time. Well, in today's gospel reading, the question that is asked of Jesus is not whether taxes should be paid gratefully or grudgingly. Rather, the question put to Jesus is whether, in his opinion, it is right and proper to pay taxes at all. Now, Jesus recognized that the question asked of him, is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not, that it was a trick. Now, the Pharisees, remember the Pharisees, you guys? Don't go sleeping on me yet, okay? Remember the Pharisees? They were a religious group back in Jesus' day, right? Say right. They opposed the Roman occupation of Rome, of the Roman occupation of Palestine, is what I'm trying to say. The Herodians were a political party, not a religious one, supported Herod Antipas and the policies instituted by Rome. Normally, these two groups, they were usually bitter enemies, the Pharisees and the Herodians. But here they united against Jesus. Isn't that convenient? When you want to be opposed to somebody, two groups that really don't care for each other getting together and say, hey, let's give this guy some miserableness. Thinking they had a foolproof plan to corner him, together their representatives asked Jesus about paying Roman taxes. Now, if Jesus agreed that it was right to pay taxes to Caesar, then the Pharisees would say, hey, you're opposed to God, who is the only king. See how this goes? If Jesus said the taxes should not be paid, the Herodians would hand him over to Herod and say that he was trying to charge a rebellion. In this case, the Pharisees were not motivated by God's love, and the Herodians were not motivated by love for Roman justice. Jesus' answer exposed their evil motives and really embarrassed them both. Now the Jews, see, they were required to pay taxes to support the Roman government, right? They hated this taxation because the money went directly into Caesar's treasury, where some of it went to support the pagan temples of the day and decadent lifestyle of the Roman aristocracy. Caesar's image on the coins was a constant reminder of Israel's subjection to Rome. Okay, that was a lot to get out, and some of you are still with me. I appreciate that, okay? But that's a little history, a little backdrop. Pharisees and Herodians, what they're trying to do to Jesus, they're trying to corner him and get him in trouble, and actually, they're wanting to kill him. They tried to trick him just like the questions are put to candidates, running for office. Are you pro-life? Or are you pro-choice? Depending on your answer, you're probably going to hack somebody off, right? Are you for gay marriage or not? Where do you stand on the whole BLM movement? How about when it comes to Supreme Court nominees? Who's your choice? The question about taxes was intended to get Jesus into trouble with one group or another. But Jesus gave a response that did more than merely foil their trick. Jesus gave them a teaching that left them with a challenge that rings down through the centuries. You know what he said? Show me the coin used for paying the tax, is what he said. And so they brought him a denarius, which was, back then, a day's wages. Usually got paid. Whose portrait is this, and whose inscription? He cleverly asks them. Caesar's, they replied. And I kind of find this interesting, that he called them out by calling them what? Hypocrites. He just calls them out, you hypocrites. Jesus, calling people names. Didn't mind doing that. Wasn't sinning. And then he said to them, give to Caesar's what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. You probably could have heard a pin drop. You probably saw jaws falling to the ground. They were completely, the text says, amazed at his response. Are we? He's God in the flesh. And so what's the takeaway for us here in 2020? The takeaway for us is, we got to give to the government what is the government's, right? That's the Caesar of our day. And give to God what is rightly God's. We have dual citizenship according to 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 17. Show proper respect to everyone. Love the believers. Fear God. Honor the emperor. You like that? Show proper respect to everyone. Love the believers. We love each other most of the time. Fear God. Okay? Believe, trust in him. And honor the emperor. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 17. It goes even further in Romans chapter 13. Everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. That is why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servant who give their full time to governing. Give everyone what you owe him. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. Revenue, then revenue. Respect, then respect. Honor, then honor. And so you and I give because God has given to us. Amen? He's given us Jesus. For God so loved the world that he gave. And so the reason we give is because God gave us Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life. He helps us. He supports us. He keeps us going. We've been liberated from the law of sin and guilt, and the good news of God's love for us in Jesus is lived out in our lives in service to the government, but more importantly, it gets lived out in service to God. You see, at just the right time, it says in the book of Romans, while we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly, Romans chapter 5, verse 6. God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And he died for all the times that we've ever cheated on our taxes. And no one's ever done that, right? Lied about our annual income. You've never lied about that one, right? Every time we've ever shortchanged God in tithes and offerings. And of course, none of us have ever done that before because we put God first, even when it comes to our wallet and our purse. He died for those and all the sins we've ever committed against him. And by his wounds, by his death on a cross, and his resurrection from the dead, we are healed. So should we keep on sinning so that grace may abound? The Bible says no. We died to sin, buried with Christ through baptism, in order that just as Christ was raised from the dead to a new life, we too can live a new life, and we can do things differently. We can do things that please and honor God. The baptized child of God doesn't continue to cheat or steal from God, but is grateful for both freedom in this country and freedom from sin, death, and the devil. And by the way, next time you write out a check to the Lord by way of FGS, consider writing the words on the bottom left-hand side of that check. Thank you very much. And all God's people said.